Welcome to the Best Little Town Podcast, your go-to source for everything happening in the town of Bedford's local government. Whether it's new initiatives or important decisions shaping our town's future, you'll hear it right here. This podcast is dedicated to keeping our residents informed and engaged.
Welcome to this episode of the Best Little Town Podcast, presented by the town of Bedford in conjunction with our partners at Media Squatch. Today is Wednesday, May 6th, and my name is Bart Warner. I'm the town manager, and I'm here to provide a recap of last night's action at the town council meeting. Again, this is provided as a service to any interested parties to just provide another option to get more information about the business that takes place at council meetings. Just as a reminder, all of the business that takes place under the guise of town council happens in an open meeting, and those occur on the first and third Tuesdays of each month at 7 p.m. in the council chambers upstairs at 215 East Main Street. We're always happy to have people join us in person, and we also live stream those, but if either of those options don't work, this is just another method of providing that information and making sure people are aware of it. In addition to those options, once the minutes from each meeting are approved, those are posted on our website at www.bedfordva.gov. We'll say there's a slight lag in that because those are the minutes as approved. So as we meet, we record those minutes, and at the following meeting, we go back and approve those. And with that note, I'm going to jump right into last night's agenda. Of course, the first item of business was approval of the minutes from the April 21st council meeting. And usually those pass without comment, but I did have to interject and bring something to the attention of council and the public, which was at the April 21st council meeting, I noted that 3 emails were sent, which were specifically requested to be included in the official record related to a public hearing that took place at that meeting. Only 2 of those documents were actually requested to be included. The third one was an email sent by a citizen to council that was not intended to be part of the public hearing. And I had made an error in communication based on that and stated there were 3 when there were actually only 2. The minutes that were presented to council last night reflected that change. Only 2 of those documents were specifically requested to be included in the record, and I apologize for that error. With that note, the minutes of the meeting were unanimously approved by all members present. I will note that Councilman Todd Foreman was absent last night due to a conflict and obligation related to his employment. The next item of business was the report of the town manager. Last night, I just wanted to remind folks that there is a parade honoring the 250th anniversary of the founding of our nation, sponsored by the American Legion, which will take place on May 16th, beginning at 11 o'clock a.m. The event will follow the traditional route of the annual Christmas parade. Also provided a brief update on the municipal building renovation process. Thompson and Litton have completed their evaluation of the heating and air conditioning system and are offering 2 separate options for consideration. One is a new water-chilled system similar to what has been present and functioned for over 50 years to replace the current system that we have in place. It would basically be replacing an old water-chilled system with a new one. The other option is the utilization of split units. There are still some questions about the split unit option, particularly regarding the potential impact of installing mini split units on the roof of the building, which we did repair fairly recently. Once we get some resolution to those questions from Thompson and Litton, we will be presenting the options for formal review and consideration by council at a regular council meeting. Also was pleased last night to extend congratulations to our colleague, Shannon Phillips, who has obtained certification as a Master Government Deputy Treasurer through the Weldon Cooper Center at UVA, and also passed along the fact that National Police Week is May 11th through May 16th. Next on the agenda was appearances before council. We had a few folks come to speak. First was Mr. Bill Owsley, who is the pastor of Trinity Baptist Church. He noted that he wanted to see Bedford prosper and offered his insight that God's word provides guidance in that direction. He specifically cited Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. In addition, his comments reference some historical things from our country's past, including the Mayflower Compact. He shared his view that the primary reason that the settlers in Massachusetts came to this country was to advance the gospel of Jesus Christ, and shared his observation that all state constitutions in the original colonies at one time required membership in local churches. He also made reference to 2 Chronicles 7:14, and then closed by offering a word of prayer on behalf of the community and council. Next to speak was Ms. Leslie Mahaffey, who's a resident of Woodland Road. She did provide thanks for the previous mention of the parade on May 16th, and noted that in addition to the American Legion, the Moose Lodge is also a sponsor of that event. There will be several dignitaries present at the event from that organization, as well as the American Legion, and also apparently Miss Virginia is planning to attend. Also, all school bands are indicated their participation, and she noted that on social media she has posted some pictures of the parade that took place from, I wrote down 1954, but I think it's got to be 1956 given the time frame references. If I'm mistaken, I apologize, but noted that there was an awesome display of patriotism on that previous occasion before, and encouraged businesses to decorate and everyone to turn out for the event and express their spirit and support of the community. In fact, anyone in town who has contact should encourage businesses to kind of dress up their storefronts. And she noted that this is being presented by a committee of people who are trying to promote the displays and the activities. And she also made a statement in observation of our recent banner policy and an inquiry about the installation of new banners under that policy. Next person to speak was Ms. Ann DeLong, who is a resident of Clearview Road. She said she had two topics to raise. The first was an email she sent to council members in response to their discussion at the budget work session, which took place previously on Saturday, May 2nd, specifically about options for electric billing and payments. Currently, the town accepts credit card payments, but there are fees associated with that are then passed on to customers. There was some discussion about the town absorbing the cost for that fee, but the outcome of that discussion at the work session was to continue the practice of allowing people to make a decision about paying by credit card and then absorbing that fee themselves. Ms. DeLong encouraged council to look at that from the perspective of the residents, and that the 3.5% fee for credit card usage is at least discouraging and also problematic. She also asked that the council revisit that as part of their budget review moving forward. Second item that she spoke to was the efforts in town to beautify Bedford in advance of the May 16th parade. Ms. DeLong has been actively working on that as well, and stated that 4 businesses downtown have agreed to participate in efforts so far. This includes window displays regarding the activities of businesses and organizations in town, as well as the national impact and the significance of the parade and observance itself. In addition, Ms. DeLong noted that she is involved in an effort to promote a project or program entitled Snoopin' for Snoopy. And she provided some details about that essentially, if I captured it correctly, noted that certain places around town would obtain a stuffed animal, that being Snoopy from Charles Schulz Peanuts comic strip, and there's a significance to that connection as well. And then students could then be issued a passport to go around and find the location of these stuffed animals as they are posted, encouraging people to stop in businesses and to really just promote more foot traffic and activity in town. And Ms. DeLong noted that she expects to have the details of this more firmly in place by June 1st. The next item on the agenda were council comments. Last night we began with Councilman Stacey Haley, who thanked everyone who was present at the meeting and extended his thanks to everyone working on the 250th anniversary parade on May 16th. He noted his personal opinion that the effort put in is awesome and demonstrates what the town can do when it comes together to work on projects. Councilman Jay Ippolito echoed Mr. Haley's comments about his appreciation for the people who were physically present. He went out of his way to specifically recognize Leslie Mahaffey and Ann DeLong, who had spoken, and noted that they both do a lot for the community, businesses, and their respective organizations. Vice Mayor Darrell Updike thanked everyone for being present. Councilman Dwight Evans likewise thanked those who were physically present and also those who were watching live by YouTube and also getting the information through our other media options. Councilman Dave Foster, again, thanked everyone being present in the room and shared his view that this 250th anniversary of our country is a really big, significant, once in a point in time kind of event, and asked that all people come out to support the events, including the parade on May 16th. Mayor Stanley was the last member of council to share comments, and he thanked everyone for organizing the parade on May 16th. CG noted that he has a previous obligation that was scheduled many months ago, which will prevent him from being present. He will actually be out of town on May 16th and expressed his regrets about that. I'm going to take the opportunity on a side note to note that I will also be out of town on Saturday, May 16th. My oldest son is graduating with his master's degree, and we will be attending that ceremony, but I will be flying my flag from my front porch at my home on Bedford Avenue. Getting back to Mayor Stanley's comments, he noted his activities and some events he's attended within the last couple of weeks. On April 25th, he attended the dedication of a Habitat home, thanked everyone involved in that project. He noted on Friday, May 1st, he attended a soft opening event at Beals Brewery, noted that Beals is open again and fully back in business. And he noted that previously, on Tuesday, the morning of May 5th, he had attended a legislative wrap-up meeting at Cedar Oaks Farm. Noting his attendance of these different activities and events in the community, he encouraged other members of council to come along when they can and to participate directly in those as well. The next item on the agenda was a report of council committees. There have been no such meetings, and then there was a request to see if there were any revisions to the agenda, which there were not. Moving forward, we moved into a public hearing regarding the designation of real estate owned by the Bedford Community Christmas Station as tax exempt. Again, the request is made pursuant to Virginia Code Section 58.1-3651, which authorizes the town council to designate as exempt from real estate taxation property owned by a nonprofit organization that uses such property for religious, charitable, patriotic, historical, benevolent, cultural, or public park and playground purposes. The Bedford Community Christmas Station is a nonprofit that operates at 510 Blue Ridge Avenue and has been there for many years and has requested such designation from council, which required a public hearing for that purpose. The background information on that is the assessment for the land occupied by the Bedford Christmas Station was $112,600, and the building was $353,300, resulting in annual real estate taxes of $1,304.52. The public hearing for this was opened by the mayor. We had one speaker, which was Mr. Kevin Turner of Oakwood Street, who noted that he volunteers with the Christmas Station, noted the long history of service of that organization, and encouraged council to support the designation of the organization as being exempt from real estate taxes. There were no other speakers, and therefore the public hearing was closed. The next item of new business is the consent agenda and appointment of a member to the Redevelopment and Housing Authority. Vacancy exists on that group, and Ms. Ann DeLong has expressed an interest in being appointed to the authority with a term to expire October 13th, 2028. The vacancy had been appropriately advertised in the local newspaper. There was a little bit of discussion amongst council members internally about membership on that group. We noted that there are actually some members of council who serve on this particular board, and the town attorney noted that working with staff, we're working on a policy to change that a little bit and to kind of encourage more community involvement in bodies such as this, as well as eliminate any problems that might arise when these authorities receive grant funding that passes through council. That conversation aside, Councilman Dave Foster made a motion to approve the appointment. That was seconded by Jay Ippolito. The appointment was approved by a vote of 5-1. Councilman Stacey Haley was the one person who voted no. Next item was an item of old business, which was a continuing discussion of the vacant buildings registry ordinance, which was proposed back in February and discussed at some length then. We've also had a public hearing since then, and council's really been talking about this quite a bit. At the April 21st meeting, this was brought up under new business, and at the time there were some lingering questions about the draft of the ordinance, which was drafted by Mike Lockaby, who's our town attorney. Since Mike was not present on April 21st, council decided to take no action and bring it back up last night. And in conversations with Mike, they were able to clarify some of the questions they had and to talk more about the intent and what is allowed under state law. On a motion by Dwight Evans, seconded by Dave Foster, the vacant buildings registry ordinance was approved by a vote of 4-2. Voting for the ordinance were Dave Foster, Dwight Evans, Vice Mayor Darrell Updike, and Mayor C.G. Stanley. Voting against adoption of the ordinance were Councilman Stacey Haley and Councilman Jay Ippolito. Next, we moved into new business, and our first item of new business was a brief presentation regarding the operations and outcomes of the Public Services Department, led by our Public Works Director, Tom Woodard. Tom spoke for maybe a little over 10 minutes. We told him to try to keep it brief, but for those who were present or watched the live video or go back and watch the recording of the video on youtube.com, Tom may have gone a little bit longer than he meant to because of the breadth and width of services provided by the Public Works Department. Encourage folks again to watch that and review Tom's remarks. And also, if you ever have any questions about any level of service provided by the town, please, I encourage you to reach out to us directly. You can call us at Town Hall, 540-587-6001 during business hours. Or if you'd like to email me directly at bwarner@bedfordva.gov, I'll be happy to either answer your question or direct you to the appropriate source of that information. After Tom Woodard's presentation, we moved back into new business and the ordinance designating real estate owned by the Bedford Community Christmas Station as being tax exempt. The Bedford Community Christmas Station requested the town enact an ordinance designating its property on Blue Ridge Avenue as being exempt from real estate taxation by the town. Town council may exempt certain properties from property taxation by designation. This means that the property is specifically designated as exempt as opposed to being part of a general classification that is exempt under state code. In order to qualify under this section, there are several criteria that must be considered by council, which are laid out in the action form. I did not read those at the meeting last night, but I will cover them today. For qualifying nonprofits that seek to be exempt from real estate taxes, there are 11 different questions and processes that have to be certified. Number one is whether the organization is exempt from taxation pursuant to Section 501C of the Internal Revenue Code of 1954. Of course, in this case, the Christmas Station is. Next question is whether the organization has a current annual alcoholic beverage license from the Virginia Alcoholic Beverage Control Board for serving alcoholic beverages on such property. The Christmas station is not involved in that activity. The next criterion, number 3, relates to if any director, officer, or employee of the organization is paid compensation from the organization. They have to state the amount of such compensation. The names of those individuals is not required, and also the personal services that any such director, officer, or employee actually renders. The Christmas station did provide information about 2 positions, that being a station associate and a fundraising sales coordinator. Number 4 is, does any part of the net earnings of such organization inure to the benefit of any individual? The answer in this case was no. Number 5 is, any significant portion of the service provided by such organization generated by funds received from donations, contributions, or local, state, or federal grants? Christmas station indicated that they do receive funding in that manner and provided more details about that. Number 6, what services does the organization provide for the common good of the public? If services are not provided, what % of the income derived by the organization will be spent directly towards services to be provided to members of the community? In response to that, the Christmas station noted their operation of a year-round pantry, a Shoes for Students program, and a Christmas Selection Express program to provide gifts, household items, and other things to low-income families in the town of Bedford and Bedford County during Christmas time. Number 7, what part of the activities of the organization involves carrying on propaganda or otherwise attempting to influence legislation, and does the organization participate in any political campaign? And of course, the Christmas station noted that they do not participate in such activity. Number 8, is the organization current on all its obligations to the town? In this case, the Christmas station is. Number 9, is the property for which the exemption is sought related to the purposes for which the organization was created and intends to directly promote these purposes? And the answer to that was yes in this case. Number 10, does the organization meet a general public need, and what are the benefits derived by the community at large by the organization's activities? Christmas station noted that they do meet a general public need and gave a description of the benefits derived by their activity. Finally, number 11, will the benefits that will be derived by the town and the community be equivalent to or exceed the town's loss in revenue from taxes on the organization's real and or personal property? The Christmas station noted that they would be providing benefits that would exceed or at least be equivalent to the loss in revenue to the town. There was significant discussion. Councilman Stacey Haley raised a question about retail activity and whether that is something that maybe is complicating or otherwise affects council's ability to act on this request. Town Attorney Mike Lockaby noted that it does not affect their eligibility for an exemption as long as a retail component does not make the activity different in allowing something else to go on that is like a for-profit business. Also, and if you stayed with me this far on this item, I appreciate it. I'm providing the background information because obviously there are some concerns and oftentimes some political ramifications for these requests for tax exemption. And while council has the authority to do so, that is only derived through state code, and there are these specific findings that they have to go through. Last night, in talking about the process and also council's appreciation of the activity of this particular group, Councilman Stacey Haley made a motion to grant the tax exemption. That was seconded by Councilman Dave Foster. That motion was approved 6-0 with all members present voting in favor. The next item of new business is a budget amendment for a local law enforcement grant from the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services. The town of Bedford has received a grant award in the amount of $2,372 from Virginia DCJS. The grant program is funded by the state through the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant Program and made available to local government entities. The purpose of this grant is for the police department to purchase items that strengthen crime control within the town. And I noted that the Bedford department's intended use is to purchase mobile data terminals to be placed in vehicles as they're out on patrol. There is no local match required for the grant. Last night, Town Council was requested to approve the budget amendment appropriating $2,372 to the appropriate revenue and expenditure line items. Motion was made to do so by Dwight Evans, seconded by Jay Ippolito. All members of council who were present voted unanimously 6-0 to approve that budget amendment. The next item of new business was a budget amendment for fuel dispensing equipment purchase. The town's current fuel dispensing system at Public Works reached the end of its functional life in March 2026. The lack of a functioning system prevents automated tracking of fuel consumption by vehicles and departments, which is essential for accurate cost allocation and maintenance scheduling. Management explored repair options. However, due to the obsolescence of the existing unit, repair parts were no longer available for order. Public Works Director obtained 2 quotes for the purchase and recommends the purchase of the Fuelmaster FM Live system, which uses encoded chip keys to identify users. Total cost of the equipment is $17,960. Last night, Town Council was requested to approve a budget amendment to appropriate $17,960 to both the revenue and expenditure line items that would cover this purchase. Motion was made by Stacy Haley, seconded by Vice Mayor Darrell Updike to approve this budget amendment. The vote was unanimous, with all 6 members present voting to approve the budget amendment. The next item of new business is kind of an annual housekeeping exercise by the town, and that is readopting and reenacting code provisions dealing with traffic laws. Specifically, this readopts and reenacts Section 34-2 of the Town Code, which incorporates by reference current provisions of the Code of Virginia dealing with traffic laws and motor vehicle operation. Failure to adopt this ordinance on an annual basis would mean that offenders would have to be charged under state law rather than town law, and any fines collected would then be payable to the state rather than to the town. Last night, Town Council was requested to adopt the ordinance readopting and reenacting code provisions dealing with traffic laws. The motion to approve was made by Vice Mayor Darrell Updike, seconded by Councilman Stacy Haley. It was approved unanimously by a 6-0 vote of all members present. Next item of new business was a resolution recognizing Business Appreciation Month in 2026. The month of May is celebrated as National Small Business Month. For Bedford, this provides an opportunity to recognize the many businesses that create the economic framework for employment in the town of Bedford. In appreciation of our industry, small businesses, and entrepreneurs that provide jobs, services, and quality of life to citizens, Council was asked to adopt a resolution declaring May to be Business Appreciation Month in the town. I did read the contents of that resolution last night. I won't do that again on this broadcast. Would instead refer you back to the video recording. On a motion by Councilman Jay Ippolito, seconded by Vice Mayor Darrell Updike, the resolution designating Business Appreciation Month as for the month of May in 2026 was unanimously approved by all members present. Final item of new business related to an update of the price cost adjustment, or PCA, and this relates to our electric bills. The price cost adjustment is a mechanism that's designed to flatten or absorb the costs related to providing power to our customers. Those of us who are served by the town electric department will note on your bill there's different components of the bill. There's the part that we're charged for based on our usage, and there is a rate that governs that. But the other part of the bill relates to what we have identified as recovery costs, and there's been a lot of concern about the exact language that we've used on the bills for that. But the background is, and this was part of the discussion last night, that relates primarily to the cost of generating power, purchasing the power we don't otherwise generate, transmitting it, and basically getting it to your property before you ever use it. In many cases, and I will share from personal experiences recently, Those costs have been increasing. And those are the things that the town really does not have a lot of control over. They're really related to larger economic issues, to the point that they're significantly large on independent users' bills, and in some case, if you do not use a lot of power, might even be close to or in excess of what you use. Again, the town is required by law to recover enough revenue to provide the service, which is not something that we enjoy and certainly not a popular aspect of our operation. But the PCA exists in the town code. That's in section 58-171. If anyone is interested in looking at the exact elements behind the calculation. But one crucial aspect of it is that it is set to automatically take effect every 6 months, and that occurs typically on May 1st and November 1st. Staff does monitor these costs, and after reviewing what would have automatically happened on May 1st, determined that this would represent an increase in a lot of cases of approximately $25 for all customers. That's in addition to the frankly high recent bills that we've all been experiencing in the last few months. Mr. John Wagner, our electric director, and Ann Cantrell, our finance director, have been working to keep track of these things. Of course, Mr. Wagner mentioned last night in discussion, one of the biggest issues in the bills recently was the extreme winter weather event that we had back in January and February, although we can't discount the impact also of the rate adjustments which took place in October. The fact that in most cases the rates were increased in October and we had significant cold that resulted in heat use has resulted in a lot of higher bills for people. So we did want to get ahead of this automatic process in our code and allow council to do something different. I'm going to go back to the action form now and note that the PCA was scheduled to be changed effective May 1st. However, at the April 21st council meeting, council granted a request from staff that we delay the automatic application of the PCA from May 1st to June 1st in order to give us time to evaluate other options for recovery of the costs. Again, going back to the recovery costs, the town has to either generate or obtain, and in many cases purchase, the power used by our citizens before we ever use it. That cost is what we're talking about, and those are the things where, based on our rates at the time and our efforts to reduce some of those costs and absorb those costs, the town was left with a significant under-recovery, which the PCA is designed to address. In order to address that shortfall, which would track its way through the budget and continue to affect our bottom line, staff presented two options for consideration. The first was application of a surcharge of $10 to be applied to all customer accounts for a period of 24 months. The second option was an actual change to the town's rate tariff to change the manner in which we charge the overall bills and to amend the classification and the specific kilowatt hour calculation within the town code. That option would also include reduction of the town's reserve funds in electric by a significant amount. There was quite a bit of discussion about that. One thing I did interject was the fact that in addition to option A, which would pass along a surcharge of $10 for 24 months, and option B, which would change the rates to reduce the impact on individual customers but affect the town's bottom line, we did just yesterday receive notice of a settlement related to a long-term lease purchase agreement wherein the town is going to be receiving $1.3 million from AEP. That's revenue that we knew was coming, but we didn't know when. So we're working to actually get that money transferred right now, and that does play into the discussion. The discussion last night mainly dealt with the fact that the nature of the electric business, the town is obligated to purchase power, and of course we've got to make sure we purchase enough and manage that correctly. John Wagner provided an explanation of the nature of our rates related to base rates and power usage rates. He noted that under option A, the surcharge, the town would not be drawing down from its reserves, but customers would be paying that. Under option B, he shared his view that residential customers would pay an additional charge based on increased usage. And the change that was in place basically was structured in that manner. Essentially, those who use less power would pay a lower bill, but those who use more power would pay more. The concern there was that the larger users would pay significantly higher costs. Mr. Wagner again shared his view that the increased bills recently were primarily storm-related, but also noted the role of the rate change back in October. In discussion, Councilman Stacey Haley asked about the impact of doing nothing and allowing doing nothing. One option would be to simply absorb the shortfall. The shortfall we were talking about is $2 million of non-recovered funds. And Mr. Wagner responded that basically there were two options there. Doing nothing on the side of allowing the PCA to automatically go into effect would increase customers' bills by an average of $25 a month. Or if we did not allow the PCA to recover that, the town would take a $2 million hit in terms of its reserves. On that note, Ann Cantrell noted our cash reserve policy, that the town has a policy requiring 25% of the annual budget, or 90 days of cash on hand, and noted that the industry standard is actually a little bit higher than that. And I'm looking at my notes here. I think I might have the specific reference incorrect, but in any case, the town's cash reserve policy, which we are well in compliance with and have funded, is not as extensive as the industry standard, and I think those figures are 90 days and 180 days. Ms. Cantrell noted that currently the town is on track to meet the industry standard, which was also part of the consideration and discussion. Of course, the impact on customers either way was of great concern to all members of council as well as staff. And on that note, we noted that this is an attempt to address a looming expense that we need to collect and account for in some manner. And Mr. Wagner recommended that we revisit the entire issue in September ahead of the next scheduled PCA implementation to see if we can offset the impacts of heating costs ahead of time. Mr. Wagner noted previous approaches where the town absorbed costs. The last situation he cited was Winter Storm Elliott, wherein the town used $500,000 of its reserve to cover the lack of funds and the deficit related to purchase power. And there have also been other situations previously where the town adopted the surcharge. Ultimately, last night, Vice Mayor Darrell Updike made a motion to approve application of a surcharge of $10 to be applied to all customer accounts for a period of 24 months, and to review the entire issue in September. That motion was seconded by Councilman Dwight Evans. On a roll call vote, the motion was approved by a vote of 5-1. Dwight Evans, Dave Foster, Jay Ippolito, C.G. Stanley, and Darrell Updike all voted in favor. Councilman Stacey Haley voted against. Again, this is a brief attempt to summarize the discussion last night. It's pretty complicated discussion. There were a lot of points made. So, again, if you have the time and interest, I would refer folks back to youtube.com to reference all the details of last night's discussion. That was the final item of business on the agenda, and with that, the meeting was adjourned. Council will meet again on Tuesday, May 19th at 7 o'clock p.m. Till then, I thank you very much for joining me. We will come back again to provide just another option for getting the information from the council meetings. In the meantime, there's a lot of activity ongoing in town. There's a lot of change taking place, and we are seeing that in the faces around town as well. If you are new to the community, welcome. We're very glad you're here and glad you've chosen to either live in Bedford or place your business here. And if you're someone who was born and raised here and have multi-generational attachment to the place, we thank you also for creating such a wonderful community with a great sense of history and tradition. On that note, it is my great privilege and pleasure to serve as your town manager, and it's a role I don't take for granted and certainly do appreciate. And we'll look forward to joining you again in a couple of weeks on this podcast, but also in the meantime, if you do have any questions, I ask that you would reach out directly, and I wish you good health and good weather in the world's best little town.